Step into the spotlight.
Alright, so as much as I like Diversity in Comics' videos, I'm not really a fanboy, but I do listen to what he has to say, whether I agree with it or not, because he has so much of a history. When someone is older than you, they have more life experiences. Now, it doesn't matter just if they're older than you, but if they have more life experience than you, and if they have more experience in the comic book world and you like comic books, maybe listen to them. Now, that doesn't move to people like Mark Waid and Dan Slott because they have no life experiences. They got their dream jobs at an early age, and Mark Waid didn't. He had this very long, convoluted story about, I didn't want to be a writer, I wanted to be an artist. But they have no life experiences. They lived in a bubble. They didn't do anything. And then you've got Diversity in Comics here, which was in the military. Did you guys know he was in the military? He was totes in the military. He went to like 3 world wars. But him being in the military, he has a lot of life experiences in the situation. I would like to think that I have some life experiences just with all the different kinds of jobs that I've had in my lifetime, the different places that I've been to, things like that. It brings a lot of different aspects in the story, so I listen to him. Long story short, that's why I listen to him. I don't agree with everything, but I do. The problem with his videos are he does 5 videos on the same comic book. So other people don't really have a chance to do a video on their aspect because he's already done 15 angles on one comic book. And that's not a him problem. That's a us problem. He's making money. That's not a problem. Totes. Good job on him. I'm not trying to down that, but it does make it where it's harder to find something to talk about because he's already covered like everything. But he had a video that came out recently, I believe it was yesterday, of Captain America fighting ISIS. We have this latest Captain America comic book, which everybody thinks was good. I may do a review on it later on. But he says, the main problem that we have is it's a decent comic book this last couple of issues, but the problem we have is you don't have him fighting real enemies. Okay, you have him fighting the same 1940s, 1950s, 1960s enemies that he was fighting back then, and you're equating that to real life problems nowadays, which makes no sense at all. We do not have a problem with neo-Nazis. We do not have a problem with Nazis in general. It's a made-up problem, and it's not relatable to real life people. You're making it exclusive instead of inclusive, and it's a decent comic book, so he needs a proper villain. And he said, well, why not introduce ISIS to that aspect? Why not have him fight ISIS, because ISIS is a real problem. And he did a video on that, talking about it back and forth about you could have him fighting these people. Instead, they have it barely talked about with ISIS. He may show up in one panel coming back from a mission and saying, oh, he fought this Muslim extremist group, blah, blah, blah. But they don't really say that in so many words. So here's the thing with that. Marvel and the way they are set up are never going to allow Captain America to fight Muslims directly. Now, when C.B. Cebulski comes in there, you may see a little bit of it, but there's just way too many people working there with the extreme left mind think to let this ever happen. You would have to completely fire the writing and editing and some of the artist staff and get new people for this to be okay. You dug the hole too deep, pretty much, and it's going to take a while to dig yourself out of it. So I do not see Captain America anytime in the future fighting ISIS. I just don't. He may fight some dark-skinned villains because, in their mind, everybody that's a Muslim is dark-skinned because religion is the same as ethnicity to them, which makes no sense at all. Go tell that to all the Asian Christians right now. But here's the thing. Like I said, that's never going to happen. You're never going to see that. Maybe 10 years from now, you'll get a couple things here and there, but it's never going to be that big of a deal. So then I got to brainstorming, and it just hit me. I just had an epiphany in my mind. A plethora of information came aboard. And I thought, why not have another comic book come out where the hero is fighting ISIS villains? And who would work in that aspect? I'm thinking, I want to be more along the lines of like a John Wick book where it's standard action, standard story. But you can't have John Wick fight ISIS because he's already got his own lore. He's already got his own villains that you're just now touching in, which is like the Russian mafia and people like that, other hitmen. He's got his own thing. Don't sully his story with too much information. Why not have another hero do this? And it's like, what kind of action hero can you have that where you can maybe change it over to the comic book? And then it just hit me. Why not have Rambo? Why not bring Rambo back in his own little short miniseries and have him show up fighting Muslim extremists? Would that not be the answer to the problem that we're having with fighting real life enemies? Rambo has fought a lot of different enemies. In the first movie was probably my favorite, Rambo First Blood. In that movie, basically he's a wanderer. He's left Vietnam. He has nowhere to go, nothing to live for really at all. He gets bothered and called names just like all the other veterans when they came back from Vietnam. It was a war that nobody really wanted to fight. Nobody knew why they were fighting it when they got back, and then they had no purpose in life. So then he goes up against the local police force there because they just continue to harass him, and he decides to take up basically a vendetta against them. And it turns into a very good movie. I liked it. But in between the first and second movie, he's arrested on those charges. He's put in a labor-intensive maximum security civilian prison. And then in the second movie, you've got him being approached by his old superior, which tells him that, we'll free you if you'll go back and fight for us again in Vietnam, search for American prisoners there. And we know you want to kill the Viet Cong over there, so here's your chance. So then you have that second movie with that. Then the third movie, you had him basically doing the same thing again. It has him, he returns to Thailand and it fights more villains there. It's a lot of CIA special activities division things going on there. He's fighting for them. There's Afghan freedom fighters in that, so it touches on a lot of that kind of stuff. And then you had one movie where that had a little bit of Russians in that movie, so that was a good aspect too. You had Russians in there, but let's not have him fight Russians anymore. That's played out. And then the last Rambo movie was really good because you had him being an older, more seasoned renegade, so to speak. He's living on his own, he's minding his own business, and then he's thrown into this civil war that's going on. They're slaughtering people, and basically starts fighting back and mowing down people with a 50 cal, which was probably my favorite thing in the whole movie. But so it would totally make sense to bring him back and have him fight this new enemy, these new Muslim extremists. Let's have him let's either have him be an Afghan war veteran, and maybe he is now fighting against Muslim extremists on home turf. Maybe he's fighting over another country where he was living by himself and he got thrown in the middle of it. Something like that, would be pretty cool, and you could have a whole new series of heroes show up. Considering how much people either very much dislike or very much like the John Wick book, now you've got another aspect here. You got another idea. We could throw this to another company like Boom that just does not give a crap and will produce anything. Boom has a lot of good titles, but they'll produce a lot of different kinds of stuff. Just something like that, Vertigo, somebody like that that's not extreme left. I don't know. What do you guys think? I just think that may be a good idea. Let's have Rambo go in there and kill some Muslim extremists, because this is a real problem. You've got them making up like 3% of the population, and yet they're carrying out like 90% of the terrorist acts in the country. So why not have him fight against something like that? It like Diversity in Comics said, it wasn't too sensitive to have him fighting, have Captain America fighting Nazis, which was an actual thing at one time in America. So why not have him fight these Muslim extremists? But, I'm sure this video is going to get demonetized, because you can't talk about anything nowadays unless you're in lockstep with the leftist society. But that's just my idea, guys. Tell me what you think about this. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? I just thought, it just hit me, and I thought that would be so cool to see Rambo just mowing them down with a 240 Bravo, just taking care of business, throwing grenades at them. I mean, oh man, it would be just sweet. But that's all I got to say. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Also, I've got a Patreon alternative called Maker Support if you'd like to support me on there. That'll go towards original content, as Diversity in Comics would say. But, alright guys, I got more videos coming up today, but I'll talk to you later. Underground Geek out.